So the question for you, John, is how have you found COVID? How has it affected your sort of work since COVID impacted us all in very different ways? But how have you found that?
I think at first, like everybody, it was a shock. We'd all had full diaries and we were doing face-to-face meetings, and all of a sudden that stopped, and we had to find a new way of working. And I think the whole industry panicked at first, and how it was going to pan out. But I think it forced us into looking into the technology and the innovation that was already out there. That we were using some of it, but not all of it. And I think quickly we embraced that. Started using meeting forums, Zoom, Skype, and Teams. And using other file sharing information, we managed to become more efficient and actually work better and more efficient with our time. It was, we managed to cope.
I think you're probably right with that, John. I think we've had some of the technology there for a long time, haven't we? But we've kind of still avoided it. We wanted just to still do that face to face. And
yeah, I mean, I'm not the only one, I'm sure, that says that's seen Teams on my Microsoft subscription, but never really knew what it was or even tried it until the pandemic came in, and then it was all of a sudden Teams is our lifeblood.
Yeah, just normality, isn't it? I know. I spoke to somebody at HSBC Bank, and they were saying the same thing. How they were worried about security and people working from home, but actually the technology worked around that. So
a lot of it was trust as well. I think, David. I think a lot of people thought the working at home idea, they wanted people in the office, and then this has made people realise that actually you can trust people. People do get the work done. The work-life balance is better. People have better mental health. And life goes on. It's been a forced improvement, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think people actually work, but in my experience anyway, I can't speak for everyone, but in my experience, people working from home seem to work hard in terms of the output is higher with people working from home, let alone, the exact opposite of what people perceive it to be.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of this feeling that people are just, if you're working from home, you're having a day off, and it's just not been the case at all. So again, any questions you've got, put into the chat there, just fire them in and we'll get through to them. I've got a quick question for you, Alex, actually. Leads really off from the question I had to John, which was, how have you found it at Mosaic? I mean, have you just seen it explode in terms of the amount of numbers of people that are coming to you now for sort of signing up and needing this type of, virtual software to keep everyone on track, or the opposite? What's been your experience?
Yeah, I was the same. I'd never really used things like Zoom. I was a big Skype user previously, and I still really struggle with Teams. I'm not an expert by any means on Teams, we at Mosaic, because it'd been around for about a year. I think what we found was a lot of people came back to it. So people who'd signed up and then maybe used it for a couple of projects and gone quiet on us suddenly started reappearing. We saw a big return in users, and then a big influx in signups. So we got a lot of new users, a lot of calls. A lot of people ringing up saying, "How does it work?" And does it do? Is it for online meetings, or is it a project management tool? No, it's not. It's a document management tool. People are used to using things like Dropbox and maybe an Excel spreadsheet to manage the PCI. They might have a template that tells them what to put in the PCI and use it as a checklist. And it's great but not everyone can see it. So what we were finding is people are signing up because they like the visibility of the PCI and the health and safety file, and also it's a good way of making sure people do what they're asked. So you might send an email out to 30 people, or you might have a Zoom meeting where everyone gets given a set of tasks to do and a set of documents to provide, and then everything goes quiet for another month, and then the week before a design meeting everyone pipes up again and gets noisy again. So what we found, it's good for people, keeping people accountable. So people like that.
On the Mosaic side, is it a bit of a catch-all? Does it just stop people falling through and forgetting to add things? And is that its main purpose, Alex? Without excuse my ignorance on it, because I'm not from that sector. But is that its main?
Yeah. It's it's a tool to give you the template. So it's got a PCI template and a health and safety file template. It gives you the chance to review what's required and what's available and what's not required. And if there are gaps in that, people can upload the documents. And then the risk management is probably the bit that people like the best, which is it actually asks you a question on every risk, rather than you providing a list of the risks that you've perceived. It asks you to consider those things that aren't risks, and then you've got a log that says, we've considered this, we don't consider it to be a risk. By this person on this date, they decided it was something we can eliminate. So yeah, it gives you an audit log and a trail of decisions that were made in terms of design safety. Yeah,
absolutely essential, isn't it? Absolutely. What about you, Tony? You've been an advocate of technology for a long time, making a difference, obviously, in construction and the wider construction sector. How have you found your user base and profile change since COVID?
It's definitely changed, without a doubt. I mean, I'd kind of echo what both John and Alex have said. I mean, you know, we've been around since 2002 as a company, but it's only really been since, I suppose, you know, internet on construction sites and the more use of mobile devices that we've really kind of exploded and taken off. But certainly during the pandemic, the biggest thing that I've noticed, kind of pre-pandemic, it would have really been the larger main contractors that would have taken up a system such as Procore, and they would have then filtered that down to the smaller contractors. What we've noticed a big change in is the smaller contractors, subcontractors taking it up, because I think what's been, you know, really notable for us is that guys on a construction site previously, you know, you can drop into a site meeting, you can do all of your work on site, pop off, do whatever you need to do. That's not possible now, you know, or certainly becoming harder to do so. So we're finding that these smaller contractors, subcontractors, people like that are really taking upon themselves to get digital technology involved within their business so that they can manage those sites remotely. Yeah. So we've definitely seen a bigger uptake in, you know, certainly that type of contractor using it.
Yeah, I suppose as well, it sort of helped people almost trust, you know, the technology. So let alone, you know, trusting people working from home, it's trusting the tech that it's going to work and deliver, isn't it, for the business?
Exactly. I mean, you know, we all know what construction is like at the best of times in terms of trusting new technology, trusting new initiatives that are coming around. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about when we introduced kind of PPE in a real heavy way on construction sites. You know, it was, oh no, this is going to ruin my day. Oh, I'm not going to be able to get my job done. I can't use gloves, can't use anything else on a site. Nowadays, it's just second nature. You rock up on site, you've got to wear, you know, you've got to be fully PPE'd.
Yeah.
It's just that and I think technology will go down that route. I think people are very skeptical with technology when it's introduced to them. Oh no, this is going to kind of take a while. I'm not going to be able to kind of manage my projects the same. There's going to be too much input into it. You know, effectively going to become a secretary was one thing that I was told the other day. But I think once people start to realize that it actually makes their life easier, you know, it's just going to make their job easier. The job's going to run more efficiently. And at the end of the day, it's going to be about making more money on a construction site, getting the job done properly and quicker. So, you know, it's got a benefit to everybody.
Yeah,
I wonder how many people are more comfortable using masks when operating in dusty areas than were prior to COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, people will start. You know, it's a whole cultural change, isn't it? To it,
absolutely.
You know, the tech side of things, it was very much secondary. I thought, you know, if we were going to have a meeting, we would have probably tried to do everything we could to get us all together in a room for this morning, wouldn't we? Would have picked somewhere central, Manchester or Birmingham, maybe London, and just try and pick somewhere to get everyone in the room together. And that's just moved away completely. You know, there's a lot of people. I mean, don't get me wrong, we still like to get together, but I think for these sorts of information shares, I think it's really quick and effective and easy to do over the tech, and people seem to be really keen on doing that now, more than pre-COVID, certainly in my mind. What do you see the sort of the future being with that, Alex? You know, you're a sort of a bit of a tech man. What do you think? You know, where's the futurescaping going to be? What's it going to be like 4 or 5 years from now?
I think you're right. I think people do like to be in person, and I think people will start to drift back into the in-person meetings. But I think things like Zoom and Teams will be really strong support systems. So I think people, you know, like John was saying, you know, jumping in the car to do a half-hour meeting, but you might travel 2 hours to get there and then 2 hours to get back. You know, I think those days are over. You know, if somebody says, can you attend a meeting, you might say, well, you know, it's 2 hours away from me, and how long is it going to be? What's my input going to be? A big thing John used to say to me about CDM was it sometimes got pushed to the back of a meeting. So you might turn up at a design meeting and everyone would have their piece, and then they'd say, well, we've got John here who needs to do the CDM piece at the end of this meeting, and then it would get pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed until it was almost like an afterthought. And you know, people would be saying, oh, I really want to, you know, I've got to get back on the road. And I think now people might be a bit more open to spending a little bit longer on the call and a bit more open to giving up their time, because they'll say, well, I don't mind doing a 2 hour meeting if it means I can just jump on Zoom.
Yeah, I think you're right, and we all can move around a lot quicker, can't we? I mean, the international business scene must have changed dramatically. I'm not involved in an international business, to be perfectly fair, so ours is all UK based. But for those, you know, traveling overseas and managing multiple projects, you know, throughout Europe, even, it must be a massive saver, you know, and environmental issues, of course, that kick in. So that, I mean, you're seeing that, Tony, over the years, you know, and certainly now with your position, because you were US start, is that right? And then
correct, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And I was just going to comment, so I'm glad you kind of said that. You're right. You know, instead of, I used to spend quite a bit of time traveling across Europe with a previous company, and it was, you know, I remember doing a meeting in Malta, I think it was once, and I think I flew out on a Sunday evening. There was a meeting on the Monday morning. I was back home by Monday lunchtime, you know, and I mean, that's crazy for like a 3-4 hour meeting. It's nuts. So yeah, that's been a big benefit from that side of things. The pandemic has certainly, and I agree with what Alex just said, the choice. It gives people now the choice to choose, actually, do I need to be there? You know, do I need to fly 3-4 hours to get to a meeting? Can I do this via Zoom? And I think that's the big difference. And it's no different on a construction site. You know, if you've got, I don't know, a subcontractor, like a project manager on a particular job, that, you know, do I need to review this piece? Do I have to actually be on site to review that process? Well, no, actually, I can open Procore on my mobile phone. I can see whether or not that's been completed, and I can action it there and then.
Yeah.
You know,
I think what I'm seeing as well is a hybrid situation now, where it's accepted now that some people will meet, but then there'll be a screen as well. Yeah. So that the people who may have to travel further or may not have as much input can participate in the meeting, but there's still a face-to-face meeting going on. So there's quite a useful hybrid situation where it suits everyone's requirements.
Yeah.
And that person on the screen is given equal weight. You know, previously they might have been dismissed for not bothering to attend, whereas now I think it's accepted that there might be a screen with 3 or 4 people on it also attending from wherever they are. Yeah.
I think you're right, Alex. Yeah. I mean, we did that with the FBE board meeting just before the House of Lords event last week, and it worked really well. You know, we had some of the directors dial in there, and it was great facilities, worked really well. Our input was really valuable as well. So had we not been able to have them in that meeting, that we wouldn't have had that sort of really valuable input. I mean, the presentation's maintaining excellence in CDM output. And, you know, when we talk about excellence, do we see that the technology ensures excellence, or does it push it in the right direction? Is there obviously more to come as technology continually redevelops and reinvents itself? But I just wanted to throw that out there. You know, what do we see as excellence in that? Is it just to catch all and protect, or is it more than that?
I'll jump in on the start of this. I mean, technology moves at an astonishing rate. I mean, I can't even keep up with our roadmap that we've got in Procore. It's flying. But I think the one thing that stays as a constant with all of this is the collaboration thing, and that's certainly getting better. So the technologies, and I think it was mentioned in the presentation a couple of times about, you know, collaborating with users on site. That's the biggest thing for me, and I think it's certainly advocating that more now in construction than it ever has, is a collaboration between everybody. And I think that's the one thing that's going to stick with me with the technology. I don't know if Alex and John would agree with that, but that's certainly the biggest thing that I've seen.
One of the things I think will be really important, especially with the follow on from Grenfell, is people being able to demonstrate that they've done the right thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one thing demonstrating that you've not done the right thing, but if somebody asks you, have you done the right thing? And you know, going back through emails, going back through, you know, decisions that you may have made and not logged, the technology can help you provide that evidence that you've done the right thing and that you've made the right design decisions, so you don't fall through any gaps when, if anything, God forbid, did go wrong, and you were asked the question. You know, you need to be able to demonstrate that competence and that, you know, competence in your decision making.
So it was mentioned in the presentation about duties and your duties and responsibilities in terms of CDM, and being the contractual appointment. So I made some notes here about the contractual appointment, and in Mosaic, when somebody's brought into a project, you mark their CDM appointment and you also mark their role. So there's a difference between having a contractual CDM role and also just your general role in the project. So you might be an architect without any construction design management responsibility, but your input's still valid. You're not asked to do something like the risk assessment, but then every person that gets invited in is asked to sign or digitally sign a form to say that they've got the relevant skills and knowledge. So after the event, you can say, why was this person asked to do this particular piece? Why was this person given the responsibility to approve that? And why was the person making those decisions? And because they declared that they have the relevant skills and knowledge and technical experience to answer those questions. So you've got a track record of everybody who was in the project, and you've got a track record of everybody who's responsible, and you've got a log of every decision that was made on the project. So any design changes, any subcontractor that doesn't attend a meeting but reviews something digitally and then re-uploads it, everyone's got visibility of that.
Okay, we've got a few minutes left. So is there any questions there on the chat? We've not had any, I don't think, from anyone on the webinar, which is most unusual.
We've had a few people ask if we've got copies of the videos and the presentation. We will. This Q&A is being recorded, and we've got a copy of the presentation in its presentable format, and also the video. So I think we'll make those available as a download or something. We'll send them out in an email afterwards. So.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Yeah, we'll get that distributed out, so we're happy to do that. Is there any last questions? Anyone else want to ask anything else? Just before we go, John, I know you're at the sharp end, aren't you, in a sense, in that this is your day-to-day life is involved in this. So, what sort of any advice or any comments you could pass on to everyone that's joined us this morning?
With regards to technology?
Yeah, about the wider role, yeah, and how technology's perhaps helped you, and that need that you've seen from Mosaic, because I think basic projects.
Yeah, I mean, the reason we developed Mosaic was because I felt that there wasn't anything out there that allowed me to log everything, to collaborate with people. I was getting as PD, generally you get a lot of separate design risk information from the designers, and it's all very disjointed. Very often it's cut and paste. It wasn't specific enough. We wanted to make people think about the actual project rather than just thinking as a bolt on and a pain in the neck to do. Well, I've got to do the CDM, I've got to do this. Let's get the whole project, just rebadge it, take a couple of lines out and send it on again. And that's why we wanted to make it more specific. And I think with the way the world's going with decision making and making sure that you've done the right thing, like I said before, the Mosaic allows people to confidently go through it step by step, knowing that what their output is specific to that project. So embrace the technology that's out there, I think, is probably the best advice. And it makes your life easier, makes your life, makes your professional life more secure, allows you to do more work.
Yeah, and it's probably taken someone like you, John, really to say that's at the sharp end every day to say this is exactly what I need. Nothing quite fits. So if you can't find what you need, you've got to tailor make that solution, haven't you? You've got to put that together. And it's good that you and Tony are working now well on different projects together. A bit of a collaboration there. So we've got these really exciting times for the sector. Well, on that note, because I'm noticing we're a minute to, I'm going to just say thanks to everyone. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. That's the most important thing. Hope it's been valuable to you. Hope you've had some good information there. I'm sure everyone's happy to help if there's any questions that come up later that you think about, and we'll certainly distribute that presentation and this recording. Once again, a big thanks to Tony, to John, and to Alex for making it work today.